Praise God tonight. It's a blessing to be back in the house of God again to share the word. And good to see you in the house and those viewing via Facebook. We're thankful to God to whom has spared us and afforded us this opportunity to stand. We have been talking about teaching and discussing shifting. So you've been following us on that one? Shifting from membership to discipleship. Yeah. It's gotten a little rough for some, because we talked about how it's hard to leave that which we have been taught, especially when it's not a priority as kingdom agenda is. And so we understand that the ground in which we are treading on, it's challenging. You know that nice four-letter word we talked about, and we love to use it and throw it around, called love. After we began to unpack it and teach it, we realized that it was challenging as well. As a matter of fact, began to hear it so much, maybe didn't want to hear it so much. But in spite of, the Lord has declared that we ought to love one another just as He has loved us. Amen. So tonight we want to continue the discussion. Not going to speak a lot about what's going on in our country, pandemic, and what's going on nationally in our world about social injustice and police brutality. But I will say that our prayers are out going towards the Floyd family. And we stand in solidarity and in unity with the family and with all that feels and shares in the pain of what is going on. There's a scripture that Dr. John Adolph reminded me of this morning, that he said, be ye angry, yet sin not. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And that helped me to know that it's okay to be angry, but do not allow your anger to enrage and turn into something sinful, but let it empower you so that it can get us to a place that we will move in a positive direction towards change in a mighty way. And so I'm grateful for that word of confirmation and reminder, and I pray again for the family and all that has been affected during this difficult season. I did discover something in spite of all of this. Operating as a kingdom disciple makes this particular burden easier to bear. Yeah. Which would probably launch me on into the text. So tonight our text will be Matthew, the 11th chapter. We will commence at verse number 28, 29, and 30. It's a very familiar passage, and many people will say that, and I for one too, will say that this is the great invitation. Many of your Bibles may say that this particular passage is the great invitation. We want to look deeper in the passage because this passage teaches or is a call to not only salvation but sanctification. It's a call to discipleship. And so as we begin to unpack this, there's an introduction I'd like to read to you. Y'all remember when I had began to talk about discipleship, we used Tony Evans' teachings, and there was an illustration that we talked about that great ship called the Titanic. Y'all remember that? And that was in the beginning of our lesson. But tonight there's another ship I want to bring into mind. Unlike the Titanic that was earlier described with the wealthy voyagers, the Pelicano was once the most unwanted ship in the world. For over 2 years, it floated on the open sea. It could have been called the Flying Dutchman of the 20th century. No ports wanted this particular ship to dock. This massive ship was turned away from at least 11 countries, including Honduras, Costa Rica, Bahamas, islands of Cape Verde. It wandered the Caribbean coast, it wandered to West Africa, it sailed to the Mediterranean Sea and roamed the Indian Ocean. It was only allowed to dock long enough to refuel and then be gone. During those years, this orphan ship had undergone many name changes. Before it became the Pelicano, it actually left America as the Chian Sea and was renamed Felicia 2 years later and became the ill-fated Pelicano 4 months after that. The reason for the wide-scale rejection of this Pelicano is because in 1986, the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, did not have much brotherly love at all. The sanitation workers said that they didn't feel love from the city and the people that managed it, so they went on strike for approximately 1 month. And if you know, like your own house, a lot of trash can accumulate in 1 month. Am I right about it? A lot of trash can accumulate in the size of that, in a city that size in a month's time. And so what they did is they tried to ship the trash to Ohio, they tried to ship it to Georgia, but none of those people would receive it, but they all refused it. So what Philadelphia ended up doing is incinerating their trash into 28 million pounds of scrap heap and ashes. And they dumped it in the belly of the ship called the Pelicano. Y'all with me? So the Pelicano became the infamous floating garbage dump. It had rotting trash containing toxic elements from arsenic, lead. No nation in the entire world wanted the Pelicano anywhere near them. They had a cargo of trash that they just didn't seem to get rid of. Similarly, life has a way of unloading its junk, its trash on us too. Sometimes due to our own sin, sometimes due to life circumstances, also because of what others have done to us or what we have done to others and have not asked for forgiveness. Some things have been intentionally and some unintentionally. We get burdened because we have carried this weight just like the Pelicano. Y'all with me? In fact, over time, this trash becomes downright toxic. It produces fumes like anger, guilt, bitterness, pessimism, fear, anxieties, insecurities. Y'all with me? Contamination grows out of stagnating and rots us away. Even other people, I'm not talking about the ship anymore, even other people can smell our stench when we come around. So what happens? So we end up floating from person to person, from situation to situation, only to discover we can hang out long enough, but maybe just to get refueled, but we can never stay because nobody wants our trash. Even if you just be honest, we don't. That's why many of us go to counseling and try to seek help. But after we get to counseling and seek help, we'll notice that when we leave, that stench, that trash is still with us. So then some of us decide, well, let's go to church. And we go to church to get rid of it. And we feel free and we feel good for a moment. And oh, we preached a good sermon and that was for me. But after a while, few sniffs after the service, we discover we still are bombarded with this heavy weight of burden or trash in our life. Doesn't seem like we can go anywhere to get rid of, to free us of this trash. This is just my introduction, y'all. Give me a minute, I'll get there. If you can identify with the Pelicano, or if this describes you or have described you in any of your situations, the good news tonight is living as a kingdom disciple has a way of unloading some of the weight from your shoulders, from your shoulders. And Jesus says that he offers victory for kingdom disciples from the weights, from the things that weigh you down. He does not want us to live a life where we are defeated, but we live a life under his rule and become overcomers. This is his desire. Experiencing his ruling authority is intimately tied to your relationship with him, not religious activity. And so you gotta kind of decide what you want to do. Do we want to continue in membership, or do we want to shift to discipleship? Experiencing his authority, his ruling authority, is intimately tied to your relationship with him. This victory comes through one of the greatest words in the scripture: rest. You can rest from all that the toxicity. You can rest from stress and anxiety, but it comes through this one word: rest. Jesus said, I want to give that to you. Life's difficult. It's heavy. It dumps stuff on us, and you don't have to be like the Pelicano, being toxic or carrying around trash on your own. Would you like that kind of rest? Would you like that kind of peace? As you grow in maturity as a kingdom disciple, as man or woman who is progressively living all of life under the lordship of Jesus Christ, you will discover that Jesus offers you something that no one else could. Now I'm preaching right there. Jesus offers you a place that you can come and dock your ship. Well, nobody else want to hear about your anxieties, your trash, your sinfulness. You can come and dock safely with the Lord. Yeah. He'll give you a place of rest. I'm not talking about when we get to heaven, this eternal rest. And I'm not trying to jump too deep into text, but if you notice the text, it says rest twice. He's not talking about just only your eternal rest. He said, I'll give you an ongoing rest right here on earth. Rest from your sin, rest from the burdens you carry, rest from guilt. And if we're carrying it today, every Sunday we come to church, we're not learning what discipleship is all about. If we're still living in our past experiences, we're not understanding what Jesus Christ has died and set us free for. Y'all with me tonight? He said, I'll give you rest. But not only this eternal rest in heaven, but this ongoing rest. An ongoing rest that we can experience. But before he does, he gives us 3 simple instructions that we must do. You really want that rest? didn't make it sound good enough. But I don't know about you, but I don't like my past trying to pull me back. Y'all ain't praying with me. I don't like my past sins. I don't like my failures, my inadequacies to live here and start messing with my mind. Y'all ain't praying with me. Jesus said, I can give you rest from you. Oh. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. And how else will you be an effective disciple unless you get that rest? You won't be victorious because you'll be defeated in your own mind. My God. Yeah. He said, I want you to rest. Take it easy. Rest. But he says, he gives us three things. Come, take, and learn. Y'all catch the text. The first thing he said is come. He gives three active verbs. You know what that means, Doc? It's active. You want it, you got to do something to get it. Y'all, this has been discipleship the whole time. That's been part of the problem. Yeah, I want it. Oh boy, you sure looking tight. How you get strong like that? He hear that plan and say, shoot, well, God bless you. Keep up the good work. But you want it. Then you have to do something to get it. This rest, he said, you have it, but there are some things that you must do. As I began to look at the text, there was a couple of things that I discovered prior to this that really bears some paying attention. There's a scripture, not in 11, 28, 29, 30, but in 25, I saw something. In verse 25, Jesus says, I praise you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and has revealed them unto infants. Y'all see that? Anyone who thinks that he or she is smart enough to fix your own life isn't ready to admit his or her own problem and draw close to God. But a baby, an infant, they're helpless and totally dependent on their parents. Infants can't do anything of themselves. And the truth be told, watch this discipleship. In Matthew 18, you can pin this. In Matthew 18:3, he said, except you come unto me as a child, unless you become as a child, you can't enter into the kingdom of heaven. And so he says here in this text, as I began to read it and understand it, there's no way you will ever be able to understand, amen, that Jesus, let me go back a little bit. We have to be dependent as children on the Lord. The text says, he has revealed this to infants, childlike, humble, learning, or teachable people. When you think you have the answers to life burdens, the answers to life burdens are not found in human knowledge. What the text is saying. It's not found in human knowledge. It's not found in success or human wisdom. Because the text says, he has revealed this unto infants. You see that? In fact, not only can you not find the way to victory on your own, it is actually hidden from you. Y'all catching this? My intro is a little too long. I didn't know I was going to stay here. It's hidden from you. Speaking to God concerning spiritual truth, Jesus said, these things have been hidden from wise and intellectuals. Those who believe that they are so smart in human understanding don't get the divine viewpoint. That don't come naturally Only true disciples access wisdom of the Father, and this wisdom can transform our lives and give us all that we need, both abundantly and victoriously, with kingdom authority. But he says that we must first come. And I'm sorry because I didn't read it. And you know I'm in a Baptist church. You didn't read the scripture. So let me appease. I'm playing. The scripture is the authority, not good. So definitely want to read it. Matthew 11:28. Come unto me, all who are weary and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest unto your soul. For my yoke is easy, and my burdens is light. Have you ever really just been tired? Weary is deeper than tired. Weary is not like I'm so tired, because if it's just tired, you can take a nap, and after the nap you'll be all right. But when he talks about weary, it's a feeling that means that no matter how much rest I get, y'all ain't praying with me. Well, it's an expression that I said, I'm so weary I can't get rest in my sleep. I'm no longer at home with who I am. I'm weary. Y'all praying with me? I got some internal issues, and the outside burdens has worn me down so much that I'm weary and heavy laden. I'm heavily burdened. Weary is when you become sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick. Y'all ain't praying with me. And believe it or not, that describes a lot of us as believers. Don't get me wrong. We've seen some situations out in the world right now that causes us not only to become tired, but become weary. But the text tonight shows us how to handle our weary situations. Are you weary? I'm weary. I'm weary. Y'all don't get me wrong. I was saying that Pelicano, if you leave it there long enough, it'll start turning toxic on you. It'll start turning into hatred and anger. But he tells you how to dock with him. But you got to come. That's a 4-letter word. Man, I may stay there the rest of the night and then pick up on tape next Wednesday and then pick up on learn the next one. Let me see how this is going to work. But if you're weary, you can be relieved of yourself. You can relieve yourself. Come on and learn how to live as a kingdom disciple. You can take some weight off your shoulders tonight. Man, if we can get this part, we can rest. He says, come. Come. It's nothing new that I've not been teaching, nothing new that we have not heard, because when he came to the disciples to call them, he said, come, follow me. It's no different than what I've been teaching. But I want to go into a little depth on how it actually looks. When he says to the disciples to come, this invitation or command is twofold. When you come to Christ, you're leaving something else. I see it. He said, come. When you come,
to him. You're going to a new location, but you're leaving an old one. Y'all praying with me? When he says to come, you are leaving a person to yoke up with another person. Okay, I'll say it like this. When he says, come, Dr. Jones, he's saying, I need you to come to me and leave you. Ooh. All right. Ooh. The framework of your thinking that you have built up over the last 60 years, leave you. I got a new way of thinking. I need you to leave the earthly perspective and have an eternal perspective. Leave you. Come. Uh-oh. When he declared to come, he said, you must leave your human wisdom and attempts at self-sufficiency behind. Yeah. Y'all catching that? Let me second paragraph. It is like when you get sick. You run down to the corner store. You go down to the drugstore and you try to fix yourself. You get your Tylenol, you get your Mucinex, you get your BC powder, or your Motrin, and you try to do it. But after you have tried to fix it and discover that nothing worked, then you got to realize that you need to go to the doctor. You with me? You go to the doctor. You visit the doctor. Why? Because he has information that is beyond your ability. He has he has information above your scope of knowledge. He have equipment that is goes well beyond your ability to diagnose and investigate or process any problem. He is trained and he has history and experience in understanding, and he has expertise to extend farther than your own. Y'all praying with me? That's why I said you have to come. When we come to the Lord, that's what we're coming to. Somebody that knows more than us. The Bible says his knowledge is unsearchable. And he knows more than us, but we don't consult with him. When we don't consult with the one that knows more than us, we're not operating as a kingdom disciple. We're operating from a human point of view. He said, I need you to come. Leave that. God will let you do everything that you want to do and using all your human intuitions and ingenuity to seek living victoriously. He will let you try and fail only for you to discover that there is only one way to live victoriously, through him as a kingdom disciple. And guess what? When you really discover that, that's when you will find that rest that you're looking for. Y'all with me tonight? So he invites you, Doc. He invites you, sister. He says, come. He invites us to move from membership to discipleship. It's an invitation. He says, I see you in church and you gave the preacher your hand. Yeah. But I need you to give God your heart. Come. And when you come, remember, you're leaving something. Watch this. Remember, the come is the application. To leave is the implication. Uh-oh. See, we don't look at the big picture. You got to ask yourself questions when he says come. How does it look? He says come, you're leaving a destination. Okay. No, I'm gonna get there. You have to leave. The disciples, he said, watch this. When you follow me, you got to deny yourself. You know what he's saying there? You leave you behind. Come. One of our problems, I believe it's safe to say, that sister, we came, but we haven't left. We came, but we haven't left. Well, what are you saying? Good, because you sound, you came. And Christ has allowed you to come, but you haven't left. There are still, amen, habits. There is still your viewpoints. There is still your actions that has to be left. You can't come and still live the same way and believe that you'll have heaven's authority operating in your life. That's why you don't have the rest. That's why you're still struggling. My soul is resting in Christ now and from eternity, because my sin issue is resolved. My guilt and stain has been washed away. There is no fear. There is no doubt that my Father loves me. We can operate as a kingdom disciple and walk in this kind of power on a daily basis, no matter what the circumstances may be. I'm not saying that you're not going to rise and fall, but listen, the Bible showed us when Peter and the disciples were on the ship. They were in the fourth watch of the night. The storm gotten so bad, Jesus began to walk to them on the ship. Y'all do know the story, don't you? And while they were there, they saw Jesus Christ. And in that forum, in that setting, in that boat, fear capsized them. They were frightened. They were scared. And they operate, guess what? And when they begin to, when fear's in your heart, it comes out of your mouth. And so they're talking and operating in fear. Jesus tries to calm the storm which is raging in them. And he told them, be not afraid, it is I, be of good cheer. In other words, he said, hey, don't be scared, I'm here. Don't be scared, it's me, I'm right here. And even though, amen, he spoke to 12 disciples, walk with me, only one received the word. I know, I bet you some pastors and preachers feel like that on Sunday morning sometimes. You know, man, I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, I did. He spoke to 12, but only one responded in faith. He spoke to 12. 12 responded, but only one responded in faith. The others responded in fear. Watch this. Even though they didn't do nothing, well, I ain't do nothing. I ain't say nothing. Well, your silence gave, solidified your conscience. You're scared, petrified. Jesus said to him here, Peter said, Lord, if it's you, give me permission. Bid me, command me, invite me to come unto thee. Jesus didn't give him a long, drug-out conversation. He didn't say, well, man, I just need you to walk by faith and blah, blah, blah. He said, come. Four-letter word, which was so powerful. He told Peter, come. In order for Peter to experience living as a kingdom disciple and walk on water, he had to leave that which he had been depending on. I wish I had some help. You've been depending on this boat to keep you afloat. You've been depending on your partners, and they're just as shaky. If you want to live as a kingdom disciple, come. But you got to leave some stuff you've been depending on. All right. Good, I know it. I ain't saying nothing. Or they ain't comment on that. That somebody should have told me, hey, land on that one. You really do. You need. I see it. It's coming fresh off the press. You've been depending on the folk in the boat, and the folk in the boat got just as many burdens and weary, heavy laden and burdened as you are. You're dependent and looking at people, and they're scared. But if you want to experience life living as a kingdom disciple, Peter, you about to do something crazy. But if you got to leave it. And I know that's uncomfortable, Peter. Because I'm comfortable in the boat. I know for sure it's rocky, but I ain't going down just yet. And I'm comfortable with my boys, and although they'll let me down sometime, I'm still comfortable there because it's scary to do something different. But he says to Peter, well, in my words, in order for you to experience living as a kingdom disciple, walking on top of your circumstances, you got to leave that which you have depended on. You have to leave that which you have trusted. Well, you know, Big Mama and them said, you got to leave that. Y'all ain't praying with me. Well, you know, this is what happened to me as a child, and this is the way I have to protect my. You got to leave that which you have depended on and link up with Jesus. He'll give you the rest you need. Because what you've been doing, you still tired. You ain't got to jive me. That struggle you have has wearied you. And Jesus said, I've been here all the time. Come. This time, don't come to church. Don't come to the preacher. I need you to come to me. And you come sincerely to me and leave. Leave you. Will I get in trouble if I say that we are our biggest problem? Our way of thinking sometimes, or our viewpoint, we can be our biggest hindrance. I said we. But he said, come. I think I'm gonna close it because this is out there. But Zacchaeus, y'all know Zacchaeus, don't you? Yeah, Zacchaeus was a tax collector. He was bad at what he did. He collected, he like the IRS, but he triple and quadruple tax folks. They seen him coming. And maybe he was overcompensating because the Bible said he was a short man. and so because he was small in certain areas, he had to overcompensate in other areas. I don't know, probably had a chip on his shoulder, but that's just me digressing. But the Bible says that he ran before the crowd because he heard Jesus was coming. Went to an extraneous manner of climbing a slick no-bark sycamore tree. And there's a lot of reasons, and that people say why he did what, but just don't pray with me because I'm just kind of reaching. He's up there and high, exalted above the crowd. He done got in front of everybody, and perhaps that's where he wanted to be. Maybe he wanted to be, hey, I'm short anyway. And maybe he wanted to get himself in front of people, and maybe he wanted to be high-minded and up there. Maybe not. Maybe not. It could be another reason. But watch this. When Jesus saw him, and I know you're high-minded, I know you up there, but wherever you at, whatever you have done to try to put yourself in a place of success, I need you to come down. Come. Now, if you really want what I give, you got to leave where you are. But wait a minute, I'm in a high exalted place. I'm in a good position. I'm higher than the crowd. They are fearful of me. Y'all ain't praying. I'm ahead of the crowd, and I'm higher than the crowd. Jesus says to him, come. He has a choice. If I come, I got to leave this high position. I got to leave my efforts in trying to hold myself up on this sycamore tree. I got to leave all of this. Jesus said, when you come, you'll be victorious, and I'll give you the rest. The Bible says right there, Zacchaeus came down, made haste. He got in the hurry. Jesus said, this day I shall abide in your house. And everybody got saved in that. He didn't have to rest no more. And watch this. Even though he was short, he can live with it now. Because God's grace is sufficient. Even though, he had to do some changing. He said, my way of thinking is, I'm going to take. But now that I've came to Christ, he's giving me new perspective. Now half of my goods, I'm going to give to the poor. And those that I have done falsely, I will restore fourfold. I'm coming to Jesus now. Has our behavior changed? I'll tell you, if your viewpoint, if your human perspective on things that happen in life haven't changed, then your behavior hasn't. Because the behavior starts here, not in your feet. And the enemy says, let me influence their thinking, their mindset, so I can affect their behavior. Y'all praying with me? Now Deke think so-and-so talking about him. They about talking about you, Deke. And now that you have begun to feed on that seed of discourse, and it's in your mind and in your heart, now you start responding to them differently. The enemy knows that. But trust me, the Bible says, as a man or woman thinks in their heart, that's who they are. And if we're not bringing down our thoughts and our mind and our imagination under the subjection of Jesus Christ, then we're not operating as a kingdom disciple. We're operating from a human perspective. And brothers and sisters, that's kind of going into my psychology a little bit. That's really where our problem is. Because we don't understand when we come to Christ, we are transformed by the renewing of our mind. The New Living Translation says, come to God, he will make you new by the way you think. Your perspective will be different.
All right.
Y'all heard the illustration. I said it's not about what you see, it's how you perceive what you see. That's perspective. And from a biblical or a kingdom perspective, we perceive what we see through the lens of faith and through the lens of the scripture.
Yeah.
David and Goliath, that was my illustration. David is going to fight Goliath. He goes to give his brother some food, and they said, David hear this Philistine giant talking trash about Israel's army, and he says, man, what shall be given to the man that take him out? And everybody said, man, chill, Doc, you a little boy. David said, I'll take it, little boy not. David, his big brothers, and everybody in there saw a giant. Y'all hear me? They all seen this strong 10-foot, 9-foot giant. They seen the 2 armor bearers. They seen how he has taunted and defeated all of Israel. They've heard all of this. They see that. And they all are scared. Based on their perception. Based on their worldly perspective. I wish I had something. Based on their worldly or human point of view, they're all scared. Now, what made David so different? Matter of fact, David, you a young boy. Matter of fact, you're a young pup. What are you doing out here in the first place? Even though he saw all that they saw, he perceived it differently. Man, I wish I had somebody. That's the same way that it is with this pandemic. That's the same thing that we have with this crisis in our country. How are we perceiving it?
Yeah.
Ooh. So you know what David said? Yeah, he's big, he's strong. I even see his 2 armor bearers. But he's an uncircumcised Philistine. Well, what did that got to do with anything? He's big, he's strong, he's taking us out, he got everybody scared. Yeah, he's big, he's strong, but I ain't scared because I see something that you must not be looking at because I see he's uncircumcised. Uncircumcised means that he is not in covenant relationship with God. And because he's not in covenant relationship with God, and I am, I don't care how big he is, I don't care how strong he is, I don't care how many folk he got with him, if God be for me.
Yeah.
Y'all, I didn't preach Sunday. Anybody listen? I didn't preach Sunday, so forgive me. I got to get it out. And so he picked up 3 smooth stones, didn't he? I don't know what the 3 was for. Everybody interpreted how they want. But all he needed was 1. And he took them out based on his perception. He's not operating from a human perspective. He's operating as a kingdom disciple. Do you understand that that's how God has called us to operate? But we can't do that unless we come. He will begin to transform our thinking. And when we come, I haven't even looked. Oh yeah, it's time, man. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Woo, I've been rambling over here. Come. Leave those very things that you have been dependent on. And come into a relationship with God. We'll have to deal with more later. And take his yoke and learn. These are the fundamental steps that I believe that if we get these down, we will begin to experience heaven's rule here on earth. If you ain't experiencing it in your marriage, this is where we're lacking. If you're not experiencing it in your homes, in the way you're rearing your children, on your job, you can have victory no matter what circumstance you're in if we get these fundamental keys down. We got to do it together. We got to do it together. It won't work unless the body of Christ comes together as a kingdom disciple. So remember, he says, come to me. to me. That's a personal relationship. He said, you're coming to a person. Quit looking at me like religion. I really need to close it now. Quit looking at me like an organization. Well, I came to church, okay. But coming to Christ extends well beyond a sanctuary.
Yeah.
It extends well beyond a church activity. Shame on us for equating, amen, good believers because they in church every Sunday. I know some hell raisers in church every Sunday. Come on. You ought to be coming to church, but the problem is we're not coming to learn. He says, learn of me. I'm jumping around, but I'm staying right here on come because I'm fixing to close. He says, come. And if you don't remember, remember nothing else, remember, when you come to Jesus, you must leave your human wisdom, your human attempts at self-sufficiency behind. You must leave those things and people that you have been leaning on and depending on. You have to leave them behind. Leave and learn to lean on him and learn to love on him. Are y'all with me tonight? I'm going to give you one more and I'm out of here. Over 4 technicians in environmental service. I remember this one young man really wanted the job and I really needed some help. But I'm always reluctant about hiring people that has a vast number of years of experience. And so he said, I can do it. Man, back in the day, we spit shine the floor, man, I'll make it shine. I don't even use that snapback. I mix up a little wax and a little water. And I said, but I don't. That's fine. But I don't really need all that. If you come and work for me, there's a certain policy that this company has already established that I need you to follow. Those tricks and trades is good, and I know you like to use the side-by-side and do it like that, but we use a different kind of machine. It's a microfiber system, and so yeah, I know about that, but I don't like that, man. We got to do it like this. So I said, I understand that, but if you understand what I mean, you got to use these things that has been set up with the company. We'll be all right. He said, all right, I got you. Needless to say, First week, he done well. After that, 2 or 3 weeks later, I look up and I see some old stuff. And I say, Doc, what's that? Oh, I just tried to do it. I said, no, go back to, do it like I told you. Do it like the policy said. Do it like you've been trained. We've sent you off on training for a week. You learned it for a reason. But every time he'd come back and he began to do it his way. And so about 3 months in, it was time for evaluation. When he had his evaluation, he was really upset because he thought that he'd get his 90 days. In 90 days, he thought he'd get him a little increase and get him a good eval. But on the eval, got down to the bottom, his score said, needs improvement. And he was very upset with me, man. I'm experienced. He was insulted, matter of fact. I'm experienced. I have been doing this for so-and-so years, and to get a grade like that is an insult. I said, well, what are you grading? What do you think you should get? He said, well, because I'm here every day. I'm preaching, y'all ain't seeing it. I'm here every day. I'm on time every day. And I work hard when I'm here every time. So you are absolutely correct. But notice where you got graded on. When you were here on time, you got a good grade. Here on time, you got a good grade. But quality of work, 0. Quantity of work, good grade. Follow instructions, 0. All the zeros messed you up. And all I'm trying to tell the young man is because you came, but you brought some stuff that you should have left behind. And because you brought some stuff you should have left behind, you failed and need improvement. Can I serve notice on us as believers today? We need improvement. We have brought some stuff to Christ and expect Christ to give us that rest that he's promised. And he's still saying, I want to give it to you, but you've come, but you ain't left some stuff.
Yeah.
God bless you. God keep you tonight. That's our prayer, Matthew 11, 28 through 30. He gave us 3 instructions to do, and we can live victoriously. Come, take, and learn. We kind of hung our hat on come. But we're going to hammer on take and learn as we explore the text. I encourage you to study that text for yourself. Look at what he's saying when he's saying take. What are we taking? And how can I take if I have something in my hands? I got to leave some stuff. And so you got to think about it. What is he saying when he say learn? What are we learning? If we do these 3 instructions, he promises us rest from our weariness, brothers and sisters. So let's get it. God bless you. God keep you, is our prayer.
Good afternoon again, saints. We're going to close this Bible study out with a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you right now, oh God. Thank you, Father, for the ears out there that was listening in on tonight, oh God. And I pray, oh Father, that each and every one was touched and blessed by the word of God tonight, preached by the man of God. That we have to deny ourselves, amen, that we have to deny ourselves in order to get the blessing from God. Amen. We can't be getting the big head about nothing. We have to leave it behind. Amen. That we can move forward. Amen. We got to lay off the weight. Amen. That we can move forward, that God can use us. And God, I thank you for the well-taught word on tonight. I receive the word, Father. And I thank you. In Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen. This concludes our Bible study for tonight, and we pray that everyone out there that's listening in, everyone that came in tonight was blessed by the word of God, teach by the man of God. In Jesus' name we pray. We thank you. Amen.